What is up, everybody? This is Recap Rewind. I'm JLag.
And I'm NB.
And this episode is recapping and reviewing Riverdale Season 7, Episode 13. And it's called Chapter 130, The Crucible.
Stick around for the ending, guys. We're going to go through our recap roundups, our best moments, our best lines of the episode, and your guys' recap roundup. So be sure to stick around for that.
As always, to our continuing listeners and our brand new ones, thank you so much for joining us. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to the channel. Let's get into the episode.
Yes, let's get into it. Poppy is back.
Poppy returns.
Poppy returns, and Mommy returns.
And Mommy returns at different times, which is probably due to scheduling issues.
I was like, wait, I kind of wanted them like together
in the same scene. Yeah.
So what did you think of the episode?
I thought it was good. I think that there's like, I feel like we finally understand like what the story is for this season. Like this whole thing with the people and the comics and
like for sure now.
Yeah, I think that this is it. Yeah. I don't know how I feel about that, to be honest, because I feel like when we first started talking about this like whole comic book thing, we're like, at least I was like, I don't know if this is like all I really want from the final season, this whole fight against comics. But there's so much more to that, right? Like it's not 100%. Just the comics, it's like everything. Yeah. It's suppression, it's oppression across the board. So that's an interesting take, but I do feel like they're kind of going a little hard on the comic book storyline a bit, but I think that that's all we're going to be getting. I enjoyed like how they brought in all the little pieces to connect to the story of the Crucible, like having to basically deny who you are and lie to be something other than what you want to represent. I think that's very, I think it's really poignant, especially like nowadays, what's happening in the world today. So I think it was a good well themed, interesting, but also like very like, I just want Clifford to die. Like
literally, and his wig. I want to burn his wig, throw it in the pile of books and burn it.
Yes, 100%. 100%. What did you think of the episode?
You know what? I liked it. Not one of my favorites, obviously. But I do feel like the overarching theme of this season is one that is so significant and one that I wish, like I always say, I kind of wish we got this in one of the earlier seasons, because it's so, the essence of it is like this American town with these American youth and what's happening to our culture and oppression and all these like really great themes to discuss and talk about in a teenage drama. And they are able to tap into all these different storylines because of that. I think it was a huge missing point to waste this on the final season, because at this point we are still waiting for answers and we are still like, okay guys, where are we though? Like come on, like where's our like original characters? But having said that, like there's still some great like tidbits along the way. I think VARCHIE had a great scene this episode, and as much as we are, you know, BARCHIE, I have to say that this is the final season, guys, and like I'm seeing all these tweets and people are like, BARCHIE, you need to like shut the F up, like you already had like enough, like guys, grow up. We are in the 7th final season of this show. How are you still losing sleep over a ship? Like, just grow up.
Let's not do that.
Go on with the storyline. Appreciate the storyline for what it is. Appreciate like an organic storyline happening, which is really what VARCHIE was like. That one scene was this week, and I did appreciate it. Just enjoy the ride. Like it doesn't always have to be this like dramatic like versus ship. Like it's the final season. We're done soon.
And we're also acting as if like Riverdale really made any sense to begin with.
Exactly.
Like, let's not pretend that like any ship, any storyline,
like they're
it's not worth it.
You're BARCHIE, you must have daddy issues. Like you must like they like try to like study your psyche to like understand why you're a ship. Like, bruh, it's a TV show.
It's a TV show. Get over it. But also, I personally was kind of down for what happened with VARCHIE this episode. I was 100%. Like, when you think about the push and pull, like if you really want to be a comic book person, it's the push and pull of like Archie, Betty, and Veronica. Like that is what we're getting this time around, and it's not in a way that's very combative for the girls. It's more just like in the moment they're attracted to him. He's surprisingly attracted to the girls at a certain point in time as well. It happens. It literally happens. It's high school,
It's high
guys.
school,
I mean, come
literally.
on.
And shout out to Machen Amick who directed this episode. It was
Hmm.
such a beautiful episode, and she said that that scene with Varchie, and we'll talk about this later too, but like she did say like she's like I wanted it to feel so organic and so like on the side of the room in the
Yes.
high school lounge, and she made a point of saying Veronica didn't approach that scene by being like, I'm gonna go kiss Archie. And he
Right.
didn't approach it being like, oh my God, I'm so like horny for Veronica. Like, it wasn't that
Right.
at all. It was just kind of
Exactly.
like, oh my God, that was so cute. Like, great thing. And then they kiss on the cheek. And then it kind of goes into something more. And it
Right.
was just really, really authentic. And I really appreciate that she put that extra thought into that moment because
How it was all going to play out.
we
Yeah,
felt
for sure.
that. We felt
For
that
sure.
as viewers. So yeah,
Yeah.
we can talk about all the scenes
We'll talk
and
about all the things as we always do
yeah.
right here on Recap Rewind. So
Yeah, we break it down.
let's get it let's get into it. Let's break it down. So it starts off with Jughead narrating, and he starts off by saying, how does a fire start? And then he shows Archie writing in English class. Veronica's getting into an elevator with a man that looks suspicious. And Betty gets to her room, and it looks like her typewriter and her phone have been taken away. One thing that I will ask you really, really quick on the top, right off the top, Machen directed this episode, so I hope that we were gonna get
Yeah,
some
you were saying
Alice
that.
stuff,
Yeah.
like I was hoping that we were gonna get to see some of that, because in the past when she has directed, there have been scenes with Alice and okay, you're welcome.
Guys, I have the most annoying water bottle today. I'm sorry.
It's like squirt squirt.
I hate these bottles.
But yeah, I was kind of shocked that there was no mention of that
I
storyline
was too. Yeah.
outside of the, and like that's the thing, Betty was in the story, like she pursued like her storyline,
Yeah.
it's outside of her mom. So after last episode, after getting the lashing from Mary, it doesn't seem like Alice has any like conversation with her this episode, so we'll see what happens later. But anyway, Betty gets her typewriter and her phone taken away. So she's pissed about that. Then it cuts to English class, and the principal comes in right away and pulls out Mrs. Thornton. He's basically like, "You gotta
Bruh,
go."
I was pissed. I was like, I knew you were coming for her.
You're gonna come for her.
Oh my God.
And essentially, he says like she's been fired under the
She's a
suspicion of being a communist, and Penelope is gonna be the teacher now. So
What?
it never really answered the question for me. Why do you think this happened? Why do you think this happened to Mrs.
100%
Thornton?
because she what did she tell Archie? Like something about the poem or something, right?
Is it because of the poem, or is it because that she like stands for like free thinking? Like what was
Yeah,
the
that's
reason
what it
why?
is. I think that's what
Yeah,
it is. Yeah, yeah, yeah. We
just the
even said
fact,
this last week. We're like, watch them like kill her,
or get rid of her. Yeah, yeah,
but
yeah,
they
yeah.
just like got rid. They like fired her. Yeah,
Like she's a communist.
yeah.
Which is kind of surprising because I feel like that goes up to the feds if that's the case. Like back in the day, like when you
What do you
were
mean?
named a communist, like you would go to like someone would take you away. And
Yeah,
give you,
when it
you'd
was
be
a legitimate
interrogated.
concern, but they're making this shit up. They're literally making it up. Like
Lies.com. Yeah.
even the FBI is like, we don't care about her. Like she's
that's not even
fine.
important to us. Yeah.
Yeah.
And Penelope jumping in as teacher, I'm like, okay, I get that. I guess maybe she needs a little bit more airtime and
So
see what she does. I have
can
no
I ask
idea.
you quickly? Penelope gave some weird looks in this episode.
Right.
And I didn't know how to interpret it. I was like, is she giving because for me it looked like she was like, like what is that guy saying? Like almost like questioning what the men were saying.
Yeah.
But then I'm like, am I thinking about it too much? Like it's still Penelope, like she's a crazy ass bitch. Like, but to me it felt like she was questioning. She was like, wait, what are they saying? Like, why is that like did I
Oh.
take that wrong? Like, did you not feel like that?
No, I didn't catch that. I feel like she plays the very like stoic wife, like the stoic wife
Yeah.
who like agrees with what her husband's saying, but she doesn't say as
And
much
she
as
has
her
like
husband
dramatic
says.
looks too. So I was like, maybe she's just doing that. Like I'm thinking too
Yeah.
much into it.
Her eyes are like this
Because
all the
J
time.
Lag, it would be great if like not to pit it against like male versus female, but like if you want to talk about the parents, like it would be
Yeah.
great to see all the moms come together, and then because the dads are controlling the town right now.
Right.
Clearly, the dads
Right.
are controlling everything. So it would be great if like the moms collectively were like, "What the hell's going on? Like,
What's
we
happening
gotta
here?
take care of our kids, and the men are effing everything up." Like that would be a cool rebellion too.
Yeah, I mean, it's still possible. We
Yeah.
know that Penelope's a gossip queen and she has a network of all these women, so it might be nice to see that
Yeah.
change, that shift.
Yeah.
I mean, it's totally
Never know.
possible.
Yeah.
I believe in you, Penelope. So then it cuts to the lounge, and Betty asks Archie if he's ever noticed anything after class, like why do you think Miss Thornton got pulled? And Archie's like, no, she's totally fine. Like, we just talk about poetry. Like, what's the big deal? And then Veronica talks about how in Hollywood it was happening a lot. Some guy apparently was like going around making like fake accusations, and then it turned out it was just because he wanted power and control. So she like slipped that in there. And then Kevin, he was like, he's like, oh, but like this is America. If you're innocent, you have nothing to worry about. I'm like, white boy, just sit down. Like, you don't know what you're talking about. But and then Veronica said, like, no, that's not true. Like, what I've seen it with my own eyes. Like, doesn't
I
matter.
thought it was interesting that that came from her.
I'm also surprised that it came from him. He's dating a black man. Like, I don't know how you
100%.
would say
100%.
that to
Yeah.
a group of friends and be like, but it's
But you know what
America.
it is? At the
Like,
same time,
what?
J-Lag, he could argue the fact that like his dad is a cop, right?
Right. Yeah.
And he might just kind of be from the perspective of like, oh my god, cops are so nice. Like, you know, they
But
would never.
this is the reason why we wanted a little bit more Kevin and Clay, because I would have loved to see that conversation where they like where he has this ideology that makes absolutely no sense, and then Clay pushing back, which he rightly would, and be like, no, no, Kevin, that's not even true. I'm actually surprised that Clay didn't jump in and be like, Kevin, what are you talking about? It doesn't matter if like, you know, but it doesn't matter if you're innocent or not. Like, race is a huge thing, being innocent and then being charged guilty. Like,
Yeah.
did you read To Kill a Mockingbird? Like, what's wrong with you?
Yeah.
Anyways, so then it cuts to Jughead and Ethel, and they're walking to the newsstand. They're super excited about their published comic, and the guy at the newsstand is like, no, we sent those all back. That's muddy, un-American trash. Like, we're not putting it here. Get out of here." So obviously there's something happening with comic books once again. Then it cuts to Cheryl, and she is confronted by Cliff and Penelope about the Halloween kiss. He finds out about it, and she denies it. But then Clifford is basically like, I basically have evidence that you are like hooking up with girls. So we gotta like figure this out. Penelope says like, you're at the mercy of your condition, but you can redeem yourself by acknowledging a list of names from the school administration, essentially. Like, so Clifford basically like gives us a list. She's on the list: Clay, Tony, Kevin, and then a bunch of other people. And essentially he says, if you don't name people on this list, we'll take the River Vixens away from you. And she's like, but Daddy, no. And I'm like, girl, this is not the time to be upset about that. But okay.
Yeah. I felt like her reaction was a little over dramatic. Like, we are talking about like your existence and your rights as a human
and your friends
and your
girlfriend
and everything. And like, yeah. And then she's like, but my cheerleading squad. And I was like,
no.
Okay, I'm like, she's still a teenager. She's still a kid. Like, okay, I'll give her that. Like,
trying
the one thing she's holding on to. Like,
fair. So anyway, so he threatens, and so she walks away. Then it cuts to Veronica arriving at home, and Daddy is back.
Someone's
back. It was cute because it kind of was.
I missed him. I really did miss him.
I missed him too, and I was like, this episode for me was not enough of him. But anyway, he arrives home, and it's kind of I want to say a parallel to that first time that we see him at the Pembroke when he first arrives out of jail. Like, she comes in, he sees her, and she's weary of him though. This time around, she's like very weary. Like, what are you doing here? Why are you here? And he's like very excited to see her. He's like, oh my gosh, Mija, I'm so happy to see you. I just want to come visit. And he's like, I want to reconnect with you and see your like how you are in town. I want to meet your friends. She's still a little weary, and he gives her a Glamourget egg. He's like, here's an egg, fancy egg. And he basically, his excuse at this point in time is like, Hermione's kind of pissed at him. Like, he was flirting with somebody, he had to leave the town, so he's just coming to visit to like just check in or whatever. And she was like, okay, sure. So then it cuts to Riverdale High, and Veronica introduces him to the entire class, and he's like, oh, I'm so excited to see everyone. I'm actually going to sit in on your English class and give you some acting tips for when you do your monologues. And everyone's like, cool. Then it cuts to class, and Julian is doing, I think he's doing Hamlet, to be or not to be. And Hiram's like giving him notes. He's like taking it so seriously. He's like, think about how you're feeling on the inside. Words have power. He's very, like, very into it. And
Yeah.
all the kids are like, okay, fair. I didn't understand like why he, like, what the point of this scene was outside of like having
Yeah.
the kids
Having
together
him
and
there
seeing
and
him
yeah.
there. It was kind of funny just watching this like actor, obviously from Hollywood, like try to like direct all these children who just want to get an A and pass.
I
Like
will
they
say
just want to get through high school.
I will say seeing this episode made me understand why they gave the backstory to Hiram and Hermione of like being actors and being
Right.
on a
Yes.
TV sitcom. Like I
Very much
everything
so.
just clicked this episode and I did
Yes,
love it.
absolutely. Because if
Like
he was a businessman, he wouldn't have been there. You know, like if he
100%.
was,
And like
yeah.
even like when he walks in and like Cheryl's like, "Oh, she's like, yeah, I heard the first season was great, but like your show like flopped after that."
Yeah, like
And I was like, "Yeah, that's Riverdale." Literally, like it's literally the writers writing about
for
Riverdale.
sure. And there's a
So
few times that happens actually where
yeah,
they like reference
yeah,
Oh Miha, and anyway, we can
yeah,
talk
yeah,
about
yeah.
that later too.
And I
But
loved it. It just made
yeah.
sense. So
So then it cuts to the principal's office, and Betty basically says like, well, Miss Thornton was like the sponsor for the blue and gold, so now that she's gone, what are we doing with the blue and gold? And the principal says, well, actually, we're going to dismantle it. We don't need a newspaper at the school. And Betty's very confused. She's like, why wouldn't you want people to talk to each other and like people to, like, you know, students to get the updates and all the news? And he was like, oh, that's just like too much for your brains. Like, we don't need you guys to be like thinking and talking about those things. Anyway, she gets pissed off, obviously, so she takes the typewriter from the blue and gold room and walks away with it. Then it cuts to Cheryl talking to Kevin, Clay, and Tony, tells them about her dad's plan, how he wants to do this whole thing, how he wants her to rat everybody out. And in the midst of all this, Tony's like, well, think about like who would try to do this to you, like who's sabotaging you. And Cheryl right away pinpoints that it would be Tony who, or sorry, not Tony, Evelyn,
Evelyn, yeah.
who would be who'd be trying to take away the vixens from her. So sure enough, Cheryl goes and talks to Evelyn, and she agrees. She's like, yep, it's me. Like, you know, you're the one who
It's
is
me. Hi, I'm the
I am the problem,
problem.
it's me. And she said she heard about Halloween. She wasn't there, but she heard about Halloween, and she also saw her holding hands with Tony at Pops. So she obviously knows something's up. And Cheryl's now like frustrated because she's like, there's tangible evidence against her. Then it cuts to the principal's office, and it's a really quick scene, but Archie essentially is being asked if Miss Thornton was a communist, what was her
Yeah.
situation,
Like, did she
blah, blah,
like
blah.
try to convince him or whatever word he used?
Right.
And Archie's like, what? Like, no.
He's like, no, we did poetry. Like, I don't know what you're talking about. What I didn't understand was at this point in time, why are they continuing to investigate her? Like, she's already gone. So, like, what's the point in
Well, they
continuing
want to know, like
if she's actually a
probably like
communist?
who she infected. You know what I mean? Like they're
Right.
probably trying to see like how like far she went with like her
How many
ideologies.
her ideologies?
Yeah.
Right. So anyway, he says nothing. I don't know. He's like, I don't know what you're talking about. Then it cuts to Babylonium, and Hiram goes to a movie. He like jumps in, he like gets some popcorn, and Veronica's working the front. And as he goes inside, an FBI agent who's actually played by Glenn, the
Yeah,
FBI
I was like,
agent.
wait, is that
I was
Glenn?
like, he looks familiar. He comes up to Veronica and says, like, how do you know that guy? And Veronica's like, oh, that's my dad. And so obviously
My
there's
daddy.
something that's gonna happen there. Then it cuts to Pep Comics, and Jughead and Ethel talk to Mr. Fieldstone about like why is nobody buying these comics? Like, what's going on? And essentially, Mr. Fieldstone says there's like a war across the board from everyone from America, from, I don't know, who want to get rid of comics. They think that they're really bad.
Yeah.
They're basically like peddling pornography at this point.
Yeah.
So right now they're like under some fire. He's gonna like look into it. He's gonna talk to some publishers, see what's happening. And in the meantime, their comic will not get published, which
Right.
means like they're just sitting there. All the copies are just sitting there. So Ethel's like, well, can I get one? Can I keep one for myself? Like, it's like my first
Yeah.
issue. So he's like, yeah, take them. There's like a box right there. So when they take them, Jughead's like, oh, it's such a shame that no one's gonna be able to see these. And then they
Mhm.
both have a light bulb moment
Love it.
and take
Love
the
it.
box. And I was like, go get yourself that box and go sell it out. Let's do it. Then it cuts to Betty, and she has a little Nancy Drew moment where she wants to write a little newspaper. So she publishes something called the Teenage Mystique for people to send in kind of, I guess, like their issues, how they're feeling about being a high school student, all their little dramas, and she puts them like in everybody's locker. So we're having that kind of startup. What do you think about the fact that she wants to write her own newspaper?
Yeah, I thought that was cool. I just didn't understand why that's happening now.
That's where
You
I'm
know,
at
like it
too. I
felt like
was
a
like,
little late to me.
I agree. I really liked it. I was like, oh, girl, get it. But I'm like, where have you been this whole time that
Like,
you need to be
yeah.
writing a newspaper? Like, I guess I
Sorry.
forgot that she was doing the blue and gold all this
Sorry, does
time.
the blue and gold exist right now or no?
No, it's
Okay, so
like
maybe that's what it's
done.
gonna be like. It'll be like the blue and gold.
Yeah, yeah. Essentially,
And
that's
that's
what.
what Bughead fans were saying last night. They're like, "Oh my god, it's starting! The blue and gold is starting with Bughead."
Oh, like
I was
the
like,
original
"Oh, is
blue and
that what we're
gold.
like heading towards?"
I, I didn't. See, I don't see it. What do people see that we do not see?
Their
We're watching
vision
the
must
same
be
television show, or
30
what?
30 because they see that shit from a mile away. I don't see anything.
I don't see nothing. So anyway, so she's doing that. Then it cuts to Archie in the garage. He's writing his poems on the side, and Frank comes in and he asks him about Miss Thornton. He was like, "Oh, so I heard about this Miss Thornton lady." And Archie's like, "Yeah, I don't know why people think that she's a communist. She was totally fine." And Frank goes, "No, it's not about, I'm not here to talk to you about the communism thing. I'm here to talk to you about the writing and the poem
Right.
stuff." And he says, "You don't really care about that stuff, do you?" He's like, "We don't want people to get the wrong idea about you."
Yeah.
So freaking Frank,
Yeah, he's one of them.
he's one of them. And the
We
annoying
know.
thing is I felt like he had a bit of a redeeming moment the last couple episodes, like, leading the Bulldogs and,
I feel like
kind
he's
of
not
standing up
as
for
bad.
Reggie.
He's not as bad,
He's
but
not as
he is
bad, but he's
still
still bad.
influenced by their like narrative, you know.
And also just saying that, like, you don't want people to get the wrong
Yeah.
idea. Like, what do you mean by that? It's like
Yeah.
so sketchy.
But like also like imagine going to your parents and being like, "I'm going to be a poet."
But what do you mean?
Imagine when you were in high school and you're like, "Dad, I'm going to be a poet."
Well, my parents would probably be like, "You're not going to make any money,
My
so good
parents would
luck
be
with
like, "Get out of the house."
that." I mean, anyway, we can't get into that, but
No,
like,
but you
it's
know what I'm trying to say? Like, it's just like the vibe of that time, but also doesn't make it. It doesn't mean that it's right. Like, he should have
no,
encouraged
it's
him.
absolutely wrong. Like, I
Yeah,
didn't. Yeah, it was
yeah, yeah,
totally rude. And for him to make those assumptions, anyway, whatever.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
So then it cuts to the Pembroke, and Veronica asks Hiram about the FBI. She's like, "So when were you going to tell me that the FBI is following you?" And then he goes on to like kind of admit a little bit more, and he says, "Well, they think I'm a communist because I went to Cuba." He's like, "I went to
For
Cuba."
cigars.
And he was just there buying cigars. So he's trying to assure her, like, "No, I was just there to buy cigars." But he needs her to lie and say that she was with him on this cigar buying trip because they might likely ask like
Like,
for
why are you there?
corroboration.
Yeah.
And so he's like, "I'm gonna go to New York to see a lawyer tomorrow, so we'll talk soon." She's like, "Okay, cool." Then it cuts to Riverdale High, and Veronica sees the FBI at the front of the school, and she goes over to him, and she was like, "Well, my dad's in New York, so like, why are you even here?"
Mm-hmm.
And he's like, "Well, I'm here to trail you. Come and get in the car. Let's
Yeah.
talk about this. I have some proof to show you." So then it cuts to Pop's diner, and he shows her a picture of her dad with a blonde woman who I
So
thought was gonna look like exactly like Kelly Ripa, but it wasn't
yeah.
Kelly Ripa. Like,
So
it's like they couldn't get that picture in.
I couldn't see it. And then
Yeah.
later on when he like says Kelly, I'm like, wait, was that her? So I had to go back and like get a freeze frame, but it wasn't
It's not
her.
her.
It was
It's
like a
not
random
her.
person.
But I do love the fact that they called her Kelly. But anyway, we'll
yeah,
talk
yeah,
about
no, no,
that later.
like that was amazing.
So yeah, it was a blonde woman, and then beside him is, I guess, their version of Fidel Castro.
Right.
His name is Vidal Mastro, I think,
Because they have
something
to
like
change
that.
the name. Yeah, yeah.
Some like switch up. And so like there's a picture of them in like in a booth at a club. So she's like, "Oh snap!" Like, she's more worried about the fact that like he's sitting beside a blonde woman versus like this communist man.
Right.
He's like, "That's not my mom."
Yeah.
So anyway, so then it cuts to Mrs. Thornton's house, and Archie goes to visit her. She's
Oh,
like,
so
"What? How
cute.
did you find me?" And she was like, "He's like, well, you're in the phone book, so it
Yeah.
was pretty easy to find. Plus, this town is probably like 400 people.
Yeah, it's
Like,
like
you're
one
probably."
street.
She's like, "How did you find me?" I'm like, "Were you in hiding?" Like, I don't understand. So she says that she's leaving Riverdale. She's going to Greendale. She's going to be a librarian. They're a little bit less judgmental there. Um, and before she leaves, she gives him a parting gift. She gives him the Crucible to read because he doesn't understand. He's like very confused. He's like, "Why is this even happening? You didn't do anything wrong.
Yeah.
I just feel
You're
like
a good
everybody's just like
person.
out here accusing people for no reason."
Yeah.
So she's like, "Why don't you read this? I feel like this has kind of like a lot to do with what's happening. You'll kind of understand where things are coming from." Cool, cool, cool. Then it cuts to the Pop's Diner, and Jughead and Ethel are secretly selling their comics under the table. They're making their little money. They're getting their distribution. I thought that was kind of cute, like
I thought it was
getting
so
the,
cute.
getting the thing out
I
there.
loved
They're like
it.
kind of
Yeah.
sneakishly like doing these bootleg comics, which
Yeah.
was cool. Then it cuts to the dark room, and poor Cheryl is freaking the F out about this whole thing because now she knows that like Evelyn knows. And Tony essentially comes up with a solution and says, "I hate to say that this is a solution. However, maybe we can all just like flip partners and we can be each other's beards.
Right.
And, for all of our sakes, like we can live like that
Openly
until
and like whatever. Like
until
in
we
that way.
graduate,
Yeah.
essentially."
Yeah.
So then it cuts to the Pembroke, and Veronica is drinking in the corner by the fireplace while Hiram arrives, which I thought was a great like again parallel.
Yeah.
She's the one sitting on the couch drinking a glass of God knows what.
Yeah.
And I was like, it took her half a day to become like the brooding daughter. Like she was like, my dad's home. She's
Plays
like,
it well.
Where were you? Where have you been? She's like drinking by the fireplace, just like he was. So he arrives back from New York, and she confronts him about the picture. She's like, "Who's this blonde lady? Is this your blonde honey? Is her name Honey?" Like, I thought the lines were so funny.
Dead. I was dead.
And then he goes, "Her name is Kelly." And I was like,
did I hear that correct? He's like, "No, her name is Kelly." I'm like, wait, what?
I was like, Kelly. But then I thought about it, and I was like, even if they wanted to loop back in Miss Mulray, they never gave Miss Mulray a first name. So her name could have easily been Kelly.
Mulray. But then I don't know why they just didn't put Kelly's picture in the photo.
I know.
I would have died. Like,
I mean, considering how many times they do botch Photoshop jobs, I would have been totally fine with her just being like,
fake. Like that photo was 100% fake. They could have clearly put Kelly's photo.
I was like,
we should go do that. We should make that right.
We should make the
put
photo.
Kelly's photo
Exactly. Because I'm like, they're literally beside each other on live right now. Like, it's not that hard to like just move her head in there. That's
and if
so
anything,
funny.
they could have used a picture of Mark and Kelly and then just added the random two actors.
That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. It's so funny that they didn't do that. Maybe they couldn't get rights. Like maybe they had to like pay her or something.
Like,
if she was,
her image was being used.
Yeah, pay that money up because I was like, I died.
How much?
Oh
man.
So Kelly's his mistress, which I thought was hilarious.
So funny.
And she's like, "Well, then why can't you just tell the FBI that?"
Also, like, not Hiram trying to like play off the fact that he's having a full-blown affair.
Full-blown affair.
And like
she's
they're just like grazing over it. I'm like,
got it.
Guys,
Yeah.
he's having an affair.
I know. Poor Veronica always stuck in this like, "Oh, my dad's a piece of trash." Sounds good.
Like, oh, okay, my dad's not being investigated by the FBI. He's just having an affair. Cool.
He's just having an affair.
Okay, as long as he's
Awesome.
not getting arrested.
Yeah. And then on top of that, he's like, "Oh, well, I'm lying to the FBI because there's a morality clause with the studio and I can get fired
For
if they
having
find
an
out about
affair.
this like cheating thing."
Yeah.
I'm like, so you'd rather go to jail for what? like being a communist?
Communist?
So she does have a nice little, she has a line right there and she goes, "This isn't about protecting me. This is about your show. It's always been about your show. Maybe you shouldn't be asking me for a favor. You should be asking me for mercy." I thought the way she delivered that was on
no,
point.
it was great.
I was like, kill it,
great.
girl.
The
Get
acting
'em.
was 10 out of 10 in this episode for sure.
Yeah, so good. It's almost like they miss seeing each other on scene, like on scene together, and like them having that fight was still there. That daughter.
But J-Lag, like there is so much to say right now.
Yeah,
like you
for sure.
fucking ditched me in this small town. Like you sent me off, you cut me off, you don't even call me. Like there is a lot to be said. Like
absolutely.
What kind of parents are you?
Horrible parents. Anyway, so she leaves. She leaves the scene. She's all pissed off, and he's like, "Oh snap! I just effed up with my daughter again." Then it cuts to Riverdale High, and Cheryl and Kevin and Clay and Tony are like holding hands. Like it's Cheryl and Kevin, Clay and Tony. They're walking down the hallway, and everyone's seeing them. Even Evelyn sees them, and I guess that's supposed to dispel the rumors that they're gays.
Right.
Which okay, cool. Then it cuts to English class, and then Archie does his monologue as John Proctor from the Crucible, and he's like, "I will not lie," and it was intense,
I was like,
intense. I was
I was
like,
like, am I
"Ow,
okay right now? Like, what's
ouch!"
happening?
Like,
What did
did
you
I
think of
hurt
it?
you?
Did you like it?
I mean, I feel like he was playing it perfectly for like a high school student. Like he did a little bit of overacting,
I
but
felt like it
like
was a little overacting.
but I thought it was good because of that
Yeah,
reason, right? Like
that's true.
you would play that way if you were in a high school
That's true.
doing a monologue. We both had to do monologues, if you don't remember, for English class
Oh my God, did
for
we?
Macbeth. Yeah.
Was I in that class with you?
Yeah, remember we had that girl who like didn't lady anyway, we can't talk about it
Oh my God, I
anyway,
remember. Oh my God. Okay.
yeah.
But what I will say, so Machen was saying that there was, I think it was this scene with Archie. She did say there was a moment where she had to tell everyone to leave, and she just wanted, I'm pretty sure it
Oh,
was just Archie and Betty. And because something, I think Archie was getting like, KJ was getting like nervous because everyone was watching him. So she
right.
was like, guys, let's take five. You guys leave. Like, let them like kind of have their moment. And she said they wanted to just kind of go through the script on their own and like understand the words that were being said, which also led
Mm,
me to believe that it was probably this scene. Um, and she was like, but everyone was like, no, 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 like we can't leave, like the first AD and like the writers and stuff, right? She's like, just give him a second. Cause if KJ like insults the writing and the writer standing there, like it's gonna cause like tension, right?
right.
So she like sends everyone off. She, I guess, lets him like say his thing or whatever, like that moment, the scene. And then she's like, that we brought them back and then it was okay to record and like it was great. But she's like, everyone was questioning my methods because she's like, you don't usually do that. But she was like, you can tell like that moment was uncomfortable for kind of everyone, and so it's good to kind of, and I just thought it was interesting for her to like admit that and like say it openly and like kind of like explain what happened in that scene. Yeah, I thought that was like a cool like tidbit of information for that.
Yeah, a nice little tidbit.
Yeah.
I think at the end of the day, to the point that you just made, like it's a kid monologue.
Yeah.
I don't know why he felt nervous, like KJ.
No, but it's he has never acted like that. Like he got to a
True.
level. He has never gone to that level.
It was
And
like a
like
level of intensity
it's
where it
very
wasn't like,
poetic, right? It's not like him
yeah,
saying like, Betty, how could you do that to me? Like he's like saying these really powerful
I
things.
will not lie.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was pretty intense. It was, that's the best way to say it. It was a very intense scene.
Sorry,
So
what
anyway, that
class was this
happens.
for? English?
English, yeah, because
Okay.
everyone was doing their English
Right.
monologues. So then it cuts to Cheryl, and she goes to see the principal and her dad after this whole thing that Archie did. Like everyone's like influenced by it now because
Yeah.
he's essentially saying like, I'll stand my ground. I'm not going to betray people. So she goes to her dad and the principal, and she's like, I'm not corroborating this list. You guys are corrupt. I'm going to leave the Vixens. If that's the
Yeah.
case, then F you. Like, I'm out.
Yeah.
So she leaves. She talks to the other four about what just happened. And they're all like super supportive. They're like, you did the right thing. Like, super happy for you. And then we get that Veronica and Archie scene that we've been talking about, where she also thanks him for like the scene. She was like,
Yeah.
"You did such a great job," and she's like, "I have a lot to think about," because she's also in a tough position.
Hmm.
She kisses him on the cheek, and then
And
she,
it was so
I'm
cute
just kidding.
because
She just
like
kisses him.
they were already close, right? Like it's not like they pulled away and they were like blah, like they were already
Right.
like their faces were like
They were like
already
here,
close.
and then they
And
were
then
like,
like she
"Whoop."
kind of went, I think she kind of like goes for it like a little bit more, I would say. And then he like kisses her, and then like even when they like part, he's like, oh, he's like, that happened, like
Like,
that
that
was,
was
his
nice.
face was kind of like, oh, okay. I just thought it was a great moment. I thought it was a really cute scene, and I didn't hate it. Like I really
Yeah.
did like that, the chemistry that happened in that moment. Loved
I
it.
think what we said at the top of the episode, like I felt like it was really like a natural,
Yeah.
an instinctually natural thing to happen
Yeah.
in a high school moment. She's vulnerable. She's feeling some type of way about her dad. She got some daddy issues going on. Archie's a great guy. She
And
had
she was
nothing,
impressed by him, right? Like
and she was
she was like,
impressed by
"Oh,
him.
damn." Like,
And Veronica's always been like that
yeah,
flirtatious,
yeah,
cute
yeah.
girl. So like, I don't know. I know that people were kind of upset online about like the whole Varchie thing, but I think that like this is a moment that we just need to like let it be what it is. Nothing's forever. Nothing's ever set in stone. And even if it is, everyone needs to just take a
Yeah,
chill
just
pill. It's not
enjoy
that
what
big of a
comes
deal.
to you, and that's it.
Yeah, exactly.
This is not real.
But that being said, like Barchi is endgame for me. I'm like,
Oh,
I'm like,
wow.
all that said,
Jack's
Barchi
like,
still
no,
is
no,
endgame
no.
for me.
But don't get it twisted. I'm still waiting for Barchi Endgame. Oh my god.
Yeah, not gonna lie.
That's funny.
So then it cuts to Pop's diner, and Jughead is selling another comic to, I guess, one of the Boy Scouts. But as he's doing it, one of the sheriffs, the only shitty sheriff in all of town, he stops him and he was like, "Stop
Oh,
right
like
there!"
finally you did an operation that was successful. Like finally.
But also, like,
Go
our
solve the
comic books,
murder.
are comics illegal? Like, is that the situation?
They're trying to make it that
Is
like
Clifford
that.
like comic books are illegal? Period
Yeah.
statement. Like, also that's insane.
Yeah, it's
Absolutely
insane. It's like
insane.
Fahrenheit 49, whatever it's called.
451.
495?
Yeah.
451.
Yeah, so the sheriff stops him, but also I guess he was like illegally peddling. Like I think that that's probably what he confiscated them for, because like he's like selling stuff in a store.
Yeah, and also like he's making profit off of like that,
Right. Yeah,
right?
yeah,
But
yeah.
like
So
whatever.
that's probably what he got him
Get your
booked
money.
for. But Jughead and Ethel still think it's a bit of a win. They're talking afterward,
Yeah.
and they're like, you know what? It was fun while it lasted. God bless America. And when they clinked their glasses, it was like ka-ching, and I was like, that is literally America in a nutshell. I was
Yeah,
like, there you
exactly.
go.
Yeah.
So then it cuts to the Pembroke, and Hiram, like they're having dinner at the table, and he's like, so there's an episode of Miss Omiha coming up, like, did you want to watch it together? And she's so upset about it that she's like, I'm gonna go eat in my room. And then they leave, like, don't even want to speak to me. Like, dad, don't.
Yeah.
Dad, stop.
Like, I don't want to watch your stupid show that you canceled me off of.
I know,
Dad.
seriously.
Like, you literally
Like,
sent me here.
what a stab in the heart to be like, do you want to watch that show that like only me and your mom are a part of, that you're
Yeah.
not a part of anymore because we kicked you off of it?
Yeah.
Anyways, so like, what a tone. He's so like, even in this world, he's like so tone deaf. Like,
Totally.
it killed me.
Totally.
So then it cuts to Riverdale High, and the gag. I was so gagged about this. I don't know about you. Archie meets Mrs.
No,
Grundy.
no. Like when you say gag, like throw up on the like floor. What the hell, guys? People on Twitter were freaking the f
like
out
in an angry way.
because they were so glad that this sort of iteration of Riverdale had a good teacher, and like, okay, she's not gonna
Right.
hit on Archie. Like she's actually doing good.
Right.
And then now she gets the axe, and now we get Grundy coming back.
Gretchen
People
Grundy's
were losing
back.
their shit. They were
Right.
like, how dare you guys introduce a pedophile again? We are still traumatized from the first one.
Right.
And they're right. They have every right to
Rightly
say that.
so,
Like,
yeah.
that was a really storyline, and I'm glad it was like dealt with like quickly and out of the way.
Yeah.
But I will say, so this scene, like they do talk, right? And they're like,
yeah, she basically says that she's excited. She's like, I heard about from Miss Thornton about you.
Talent.
I'm excited to help you about your poetry. And he was like, okay, cool. But sorry, so what were you gonna say?
And then she was like, do you know a poet? And I was like, oh my god, is she gonna say like her vagina? Like, what is she gonna say? And he's like, no, I don't know a poet. And she's like, my husband's a poet, so I'll get him to write you some. And I was like, oh,
Right.
okay, so like in this version she has a husband.
She's married,
so maybe
yeah.
she's not gonna like abuse him,
And I think that that's the thing. Like, I know that everyone was probably quick to be like, oh my god, Miss Grundy.
Yeah.
But also you have to remember, they brought back a lot of old characters, a lot of old actors in different ways.
Look
and
at
they
Glenn.
can be
He's like FBI agent. Apparently he's a good FBI agent.
He's a good FBI agent. There's some characters that are still crappy, but like maybe Miss Grundy is gonna be good, and maybe they wanted to give her an opportunity to redeem herself because of the backlash that first iteration got.
I like that. I like that.
Let's go with that. Let's give them the give them the benefit of the doubt. Like, I think that that's totally fair.
And I just don't think there's enough time. I don't think there's enough time right now to go back into an Archie storyline. He's in love with his teacher. Like,
I really don't think that that's going to be the case. I don't think that's going to be the case.
Yeah.
That being said, it's hard not to see her that way because like she talks so weirdly seductively to him. Like, she's like smiling at him weirdly and stuff. So I get that like there's the energy and the vibe there. Maybe that's a direction thing, but I think more than anything else, we should, until further
Yeah,
proof,
agreed.
it is just an innocent, another teacher and a student that we know. We know Miss Grundy, and maybe this is just her redeeming moment.
Yeah.
Let's just take it that way. So cool, Miss Grundy is involved now. Then it cuts to the principal's office, and the sheriff and the psychologists are in there. They have all these comics that they confiscate, and they're like, we need more. This is not enough. We need to push harder against these freaking comics. Okay, cool. Like, I don't know what you want me to say about that. So then it cuts to the English class, and Veronica does her monologue. And it's from King Lear. And I thought it was really powerful. It's almost like this, it's kind of like the shell of like who Veronica is as a character. Like, she can't stand her father. She thinks that he's a total douche. However, you are my father. I love you. I am bonded to you.
Forever.
You know, all the things that she said was really powerful it was one of my favorite things to watch her do.
Yeah, it was. Yeah.
Because then also kind of leads into the next scene, which is Hiram in his office. She walks in and she says she signed the affidavit for him. She's like, this is me saying like I was in Cuba with you. But she has two stipulations. The first stipulation is you need to be honest with mom about your affair.
With
and
Kelly.
He's like, okay, fine, I'll do that like when I get back. And then she also says she wants the Pembroke deed so she can live there, and you know, like if you guys decide to kick me out again, like at least I have a place to live.
Yeah.
And he's like, fair, sure. So he agrees to both, and that is the last time we see Hiram, which is
yeah,
a bit of a, what did you think of that? Kind of like, it was just like an in and out, boom boom.
Yeah, like I did feel like I wanted a little bit more for Veronica's sake, right? Like not for our sake necessarily, but like for her to get closure or some sort of like thing of like, my parents do love me. My parents are here for me. They were just teaching me a lesson. Like I kind of wanted a little bit more of that. And maybe we do get that a little bit with Hermione when she comes in. But yeah, I just wanted a little bit more for our girl, you know?
I do wish that like it didn't feel complete to me. Like I felt like Hiram came in, and maybe it is just a timing thing, right? Like maybe it's just you only have this much time. Put Hiram in this scene, put him in this storyline. I was happy to we were happy to see him, obviously, but it just didn't feel enough.
Yeah, because it also was like, why bring him back?
Right. All he did really was just like you kind of get an understanding and a tone of what the relationship is like, but essentially she just gets the Pembroke deed, and that's pretty much it. Yeah. Like there's nothing else.
And I think that's it for Mark. Like I don't think he's back for another episode. So
like he's not back for like the final episode. Or anything, right?
I don't think so. I
that's
guess
a bummer.
We'll see what our fans say because they always have the tea on that. But I think that was it. So I don't know.
Farewell, Hiram Lodge.
A bit more iconic, you know.
That's the thing. Like, and you know, I hope that we get a chance to talk to him about this. But like, he's had 3 endings. Like, he got kicked out. He got exiled. Then he got murdered off screen.
Yeah.
And then this, which was kind of like a bit of like a goodbye. There was not even like a Mija, do I get a hug before I leave? You know, like there wasn't.
No matter where I am, I always you're always gonna be like with me, like something cute like that, like
anything,
just to end
close
off
the
that
book.
thing, you know?
Yeah.
Like wow, like Hiram really does love his daughter. Like I just wanted a little bit more, you know?
And that's the thing, like, you know, I look at season, like the final season of a lot of shows, not just this show, and wonder why the creators don't just give the fans fan service. Just give us what we want. We want these cute scenes. Maybe they don't make a lot of sense, but at least give them the moment. And especially with Hiram's character, because he didn't get that opportunity, like when he died, to say goodbye. This could have been his final moment to be like, goodbye, Veronica.
In my opinion,
have good time in Riverdale. You know, nice knowing you.
In my opinion, maybe the whole Cheryl storyline this episode could have been pushed to last week or next week, and it could have been a bit more Veronica heavy Hiram. And all Hiram. Because if this is it for him and this is it for Hermione, like give them that time. And to your point, like that's what I don't understand why shows do that. Like thank you for bringing him back. Like that was great, but like why are you going to bring him back
Why
for like a
go only this
half-ass, like,
far?
why only go
Yeah.
this far? And
Yeah.
also, like, I feel like the show now understands what they did wrong. Like, I now think that they see themselves and they're like, what did we do for like 4 or 5 seasons? Like, we wasted a lot of time.
Right.
And maybe at those moments what we were saying and yelling it from our podcast, like they just didn't hear us, you know?
Yeah,
So
exactly.
I don't know. I just feel like they could have given us a little bit more of
They could
Hiram,
have given us
sort of
more.
closing it up and being like,
Absolutely.
you're still my daughter, like I love you, like
And
goodbye.
and that's the thing. It's just a line for us. You know what
A
I mean?
hundred
Like it's
percent.
always been for a lot of things that we always say
Yeah.
like this is a quick solve, writers. It's not like you need to like film this entire new scene. You're
Like, I don't
already
need a whole
there.
Cuba storyline. Like,
No, all you need to
literally.
say is you just need to look at Veronica and say, "I'm sorry for putting you in the middle of us. I love you. You're my daughter no matter what."
Yeah.
And that's it. Like this is the final time we're seeing Mark Consuelos, the Mark
As Hiram
Consuelos
Lodge,
as
the
Hiram Lodge
original
on
bad
Riverdale.
guy. The
The
original bad
original
guy.
bad guy.
What I will say
Anyway.
is, you know, and I do want to highlight these moments because they are such beautiful moments. Like Veronica saying the King Lear thing, like
Yeah.
that should have happened ages ago. And
Right.
these kids in high school in this universe are learning so much about themselves in little
Yeah.
moments like this, like English class, when your
Right.
teacher makes you do this poem and like you have to be like sort of like introspective and like be like what's about what's my life like? Like there's such rich moments in all of these episodes where the kids are finding more about themselves and like
Yeah.
who they
Yeah.
are really about. We fast forwarded over all of that in the original
It's
timeline.
true.
Like
It's
they
true.
had none of this sort of looking
High
inside
school
of
stuff.
yourself and like it was high school stuff, but it was like surface level high school stuff. Like
For
it was
sure.
even barely that because they were
Yeah.
running around in the forest trying to figure shit out. Like I just
Making
really
sure they're not to get
do,
murdered. Yeah, I
you know, and
know.
I always say this, I am really appreciating like these little moments of like they're discovering so much about themselves,
Yeah,
and hopefully this discovery sort of leads them to a better ending for the ending of the finale. You know what
for
I mean?
sure. For sure. So anyway, we farewell Hiram Lodge. Sad to see you go. Then it cuts to
But
the
I love
post
to watch you
office.
leave.
I love to watch you leave. Then it cuts to the post office, and Betty is like, "What is this thing that I'm getting?" And then it turns out she got like a whole like bag full of mail from her letter or from her mail from her sorry her newsletter that people want to write out to. So she's gonna
Yeah.
like start this thing up. Super exciting, very excited for her. Then it cuts back to the Pembroke, and it almost felt so awkward when she showed up like right after that. She's like,
Yeah.
Hermione arrives and she's like, "Oh hi," and then Veronica's like, you literally
You literally
just missed
just missed
Daddy.
Daddy. And she's like, yeah, we
You,
probably like flew by each other in the air. I was like, yeah,
yeah,
huh?
yeah,
Uh-huh.
yeah.
Um,
To head back to New York to do
I was
live.
so shook because I was like, oh, is she gonna be in this too? It was like literally the last like 5 minutes of the episode.
Little 3 minutes, yeah, exactly. So he left, and so she ends up saying, "We're gonna do a press conference, and the next season of Oh Miha is going to be its last season."
Seventh
And
season.
she even says after 7 seasons, which I thought was really, really
Yeah.
interesting.
Yeah.
Um, and then she goes on to say, the one thing that we're gonna wait till the final episode is to reveal that we are divorcing and at the end of the series.
This
Um
scene made me really emotional, and I wish I wrote
really?
down what Hermione says because she does talk about sort of like, you know, the lifespan of this of her show and what she's
Yes.
learned and like
Touching the
touching the
fans.
fans and like the appreciation and, you know,
Yeah.
obviously they are talking about their own show, like they're
Riverdale.
talking about
Yeah.
Riverdale. So I got a little like emotional, I got a little like choked up because
Totally.
I wasn't expecting her to say that, but then saying it in the connection to her show, and I just love that the writers were talking to us
Yeah,
so much in this episode, and
for
I
sure.
really loved it, and I really hope that they continue doing that until the
Yeah.
end.
I agree. Yeah, I hope that
Yeah.
there's little moments like these that we get for sure.
Yeah.
Um So they're divorcing. And then Hermione goes on to say that she wants to spend Christmas in New York, just the two of them. Let's enjoy our time together. And I think actually, I don't know, I think I know what the name of the next episode is, but last couple episodes ago was Halloween. So are we going to get a Christmas episode? Do you
Christmas
think?
or Thanksgiving? Yeah, Christmas,
Thanksgiving.
I guess. Yeah.
Yeah, well, she said we're gonna
Next week's
spend
a
Christmas in
musical
New York.
episode, right?
Next episode's a musical episode, but are we gonna get a Christmas episode and like have that whole thing happen? Like even though we're in the middle of the summer,
Yeah, I
like
don't
I don't
know.
know. Because we got a Halloween episode and it was in the middle of the summer, so
Yeah, that's true.
we'll see. We'll see if they have anything up their sleeve for Christmas. But yeah, so then Veronica's like, oh yeah, sure. So I guess we're gonna see more of Hermione
Oh, maybe. Yeah,
than
yeah, yeah.
Hiram.
Yeah,
I'm
which I'm
assuming.
okay with. So,
I'm like, well, let's get at least one of them.
which
Goddammit.
which lends to the theory that the mommies will save Riverdale.
Come together. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. That's very possible.
Yeah.
So then it cuts to Riverdale High, and sorry, actually, we didn't finish moving on from one more second with Hermione. I just also love the fact that she waltzes into the Pembroke and like open arm, like, oh, Veronica, you literally were about to kick her ass
You
out last episode.
Literally
What the
ditched
fuck?
your kid. Yeah, no, like nothing is forgivable.
Yeah, she's like nothing. Like she just
As
walks
if
in as if
nothing
nothing
happened.
happened. I was like, girl, I remember, and I'm sure she remembers.
like,
You're
never
actually be out
forget.
on the street right now. Anyway, so then it cuts to Riverdale High, and Jughead sees a lineup in the front of the principal's office, and he asks Dilton, who's in line with a bunch of comics, like, what's happening? And he says, like, oh, Featherhead's buying all of our comics. And Jughead's like, that sounds really fishy. There's something up his sleeve. Like, he wanted to get rid of them like 5 minutes ago. So, like, what's going on? Why would he be buying them? Then, of course, it shows the final scene. Later that night, in front of Riverdale High, there's a bonfire and a protest against comics. And there's a giant fire. Everybody's throwing them into the fire. And the final line is, how does a fire start? Well, sometimes if you're not careful, right in front of your doorstep. Which I also thought was interesting because if you recall, was it 2 seasons ago or last season, there was a fire that was started by the Ghoulies in front of Archie's doorstep.
Yeah.
So I thought there was like a nice little kind of mishmash. But that was the episode. I feel like we blasted kind of through that because I feel like there was little things here and there.
Yeah.
It was the episode. It was it.
It was it. Yeah.
It was it. That's how we describe the episode. It was it.
I was excited for Daddy.
Yes.
I wish Daddy stayed longer.
Me too. That's my only big qualm about this whole thing. Are we ready to get into our recap roundup?
We are.
Let's do it.
Recap roundups.
Best moment.
What was your best moment?
My best moment is gonna be the Varchie kiss. Just because it made me all warm inside. And I was
You're
like,
like,
oh, I missed this like
"Ooh."
back and forth. And I did miss them on screen. And I think it was so organic and I believed it.
Yeah, for sure. And it was an enjoyable, like we said, like I think it's an enjoyable moment. I think it was believable. I think it made sense. And I was into it despite everyone else's protests against it.
Yeah.
My best moment is going to go to Veronica's monologue
Yeah.
because, like I said, I think it's kind of like a good encapsulation of like her character, who she is, how she has to like deal with her dad and her big daddy issues. So really well done.
WTF moment.
What was your WTF moment?
WTF moment, it's gonna go to Gruns for me, Miss Grundy, because I just really never thought I would see her again. And
Yeah.
especially because they did the teacher storyline. Like we have that lady
For
Miss
sure.
Thornton, and like just to see
That lady.
Gruns, I was like, whoa.
Yeah, for sure. She was one of my WTFs, but I also put down the Varchie because I was shocked.
You were shocked.
I mean,
yeah.
shocked in the sense that like I saw the promo and we know that it happened, but
And that's why sometimes
it was also,
I feel like don't show that in the promo.
don't
Like,
show
let's
those
be really
things.
surprised.
I know. I would have been so gagged if we saw that for the first time. It's just all these seasons later, they're still just trying to bait people with their trailers.
Like actually.
MVP.
My MVP is our girl Veronica.
Veronica.
Because I just really appreciated her this week, and I
Yeah.
loved her poem, and you know, she was just really on top of her game. She protects her family at the end of the day, like, and she said her things as much as she like hated her parents, like she was still talking shit with them, so that was good, you know.
Right, and she she demanded what she wanted, and she got what she wanted. So like everything kind of worked out for her to a degree. I mean, she's obviously also emotionally damaged, but it's fine. My MVP is gonna go to Cheryl. So we didn't really get a chance to talk about like Cheryl and like what she ends up doing too much. I know that in the context of this time period, like she doesn't really have much of a choice, but the fact that like they have to once again hide themselves to just be themselves, and she ended up having to give up the vixens and all that. It all kind of still sucks. It kind of leaves like a little bit of a bittersweet taste in your mouth because you're like, did you win? Did you really give the middle finger to your dad because you're still lying to the rest of the high school? I don't know. But either way, I still think that she's the MVP because I think that those are conflicting feelings to have.
Yeah.
You're a 50s kid in high school and you're a lesbian and you got a girlfriend.
And ultimately, like, she sacrificed
not easy.
her lifeline, which was the vixens,
right? Which she
was
like,
okay to give
she was
it up.
obsessed with.
So
yeah,
that's
she
huge,
was like,
right?
that's huge. Yeah, for sure.
LVP.
You know, I'm just gonna have to give it to mommy and daddy just for their appearance and for their lack of being present for their daughter and
and also just like not enough for us. I think
not enough
I think
for
that,
us. Yeah,
like we
plate
wanted
was
more.
half empty. Yeah.
More mommy and daddy. My LVP is gonna go to Frank. He only had a one quick scene, but I was just disappointed to see him slowly like decline once again to that like crappy person that he's been.
Yeah.
The best line.
What was your best line?
Best line is gonna go to Cheryl in the beginning when she was like talking about oh mija, and she's like,
yeah.
Especially the first season, it kind of went downhill after that.
It's like
I was dying we were dying on Twitter.
So
like, I'm like, yeah, they heard us freaking talking shit on Riverdale after, because their first season was really the best season, and it really did go downhill after that.
Yeah, for sure. My best line is gonna go back to Veronica when she says her monologue. And she says, "Unhappy that I am, I cannot heave my heart into my mouth. I love your majesty. According to my bond, no more nor less." She does it way better than I do, obviously, but basically talking about her devotion to her father.
Yeah.
Which I thought was really powerful.
Devoted to you. Okay. Let's get into some recapper roundups.
Let's do it. Who we got going?
Okay, we got Sierra. Oh no, what's happening here?
We got
Sierra N.
Yeah.
713. Maybe my last recap roundup. Who knows? Why? Where are you going? As we got news that this season will stay in the 50s. What?
Ooh.
This is really infuriating as the characters and storylines we have loved for 6 years have now just been completely wiped away and all. But guys, I feel like you're getting too ahead. Maybe they're going to be in the 50s, but they will still realize that they discovered like the real timeline. You know what I mean?
Right. We don't really know what
we don't know. Maybe they're just trying to like tease us that it's going to stay. Like it could stay in the 50s, yeah, but they still know who they really are, you know?
Yeah, like what is the context around that? Anyway.
Yeah. So yeah, just wiped away. Sounds like they're just cheese. I really had hoped this season was going to do something really interesting, but all is filler and time wasting, and I'd hate to bring lots of negativity to the next 7 episodes. Just depends.
Oh no.
Well, you think you should still like listen to us.
Stick around, yeah, just listen to our podcast.
MVP, Cheryl, Tony, Kevin, Clay. I love their group this episode. Cheryl not going along with her father's orders was really nice to see, and I wish they had been here earlier because all four's dynamic was really refreshing and interesting. And the scene of them fake dating was so funny, and I actually liked over Betty and Kevin / Cheryl and Archie, as this was intentional on both ends, so it just made it almost funnier to watch. LVP, obviously the old white men brigade, like they are every episode, annoying AF. Hiram Lodge, because like I really love Mark Consuelos, don't get me wrong, but I don't need Hiram back anymore. Like he's a broken record at this point, and while I didn't mind the storyline he had this episode, I'm just over him as a character in general. I wish we had more Hermione, because at least in the past 6 seasons she didn't much compared to Hiram. So her having the spotlight this episode would have felt much better. Fair points. They're fair points for sure.
I think that's fair points, but it's like what we were saying from the top. Like if they had given Hiram
100%.
what he needed to like
make
that relationship with Veronica, then I feel like it would make more sense.
Yeah.
And then we were kind of left with not enough anyway. So
yeah. Best moment, probably Cheryl going against her father. WTF moment, literally any other moment, I didn't like this episode one bit. Best line, especially the first season, it went downhill after that. Another WTF was bringing Grundy back. We did not need to see her. I hate that we are redeeming an actual predator. This is some PLL / 13 Reasons Why level BS.
Ooh, girl.
All right. Okay, I'm not going to read the rest, but we can post it back on our Instagram later. I think we have on Twitter. Who is up on our Twitter? Mackenzie L. Burns.
Yes.
Best moment, Cheryl giving Evelyn the vixens and forsaking being a vixen by choosing to stand with Tony and Clevin as outing them is a worse fate than keeping her precious vixens alive. Another tip on bending towards justice. Wow, that's a great point. WTF moment, bringing back Miss Grundy may not be as it seems, but the name is still triggering for viewers of the show because of how the show's history with said character. Also, now they have decided the old white man club is not going to pay students/people to sell them their comic books. This comic book storyline gets weirder and weirder by the episode, plus the random AF VARCHIE kiss, which seems like it was only there because Hiram was in the episode, not because it really added anything to the plot, as it seems like it was thrown in to fill airtime. MVP, Cheryl once again doing the most this week by challenging the status quo and making sure her and her friends are protected at all costs. LVP, the old white men club, aka Featherhead, Clifford, and Weathers for firing Miss Thornton over baseless accusations only to seemingly bring in a potential predator into the school. Also, honestly, Hiram for the return of a major villain / Veronica's dad. It didn't wow me like I expected it to. This is a character we've known for 7 seasons and it wasn't really special. Best line, I want to know your dreams, your desires, your hopes and fears. This is your newsletter. This is Teen Mystique. A form for all the thoughts and questions you're otherwise too scared to share. Send me your letters anonymously to the P.O. box below. You can address them to the girl next door.
I love that.
I love that.
Teen Mystique.
Words have power, Archie. Use them for good. Make the world a better, freer place.
Love it.
Oh my
Love
god,
it.
that was so good.
That was good.
That was good. I think we have one more. I just don't want to.
Yeah, let's not miss them. Who else we got going on?
Okay, CHONI 5 on it. Best moment, Cheryl making a joke to Hiram that his show went downhill after the first season. So funny. I love when Riverdale makes fun of themselves. WTF moment, the gay witch hunt and the VARCHIE kiss. MVP, Cheryl. LVP, Evelyn, Penelope, and Clifford. Oh my god, we didn't even say Evelyn for LVP.
Oh my god,
that's
true.
how like irrelevant she is.
She's so irrelevant. Yeah.
Best line, and may Evelyn ever never fall off the top of the Vixen pyramid and break her scrawny little neck. I love that.
That was good.
And I get they have to show everything because it's the last season, but they ruined BARCHIE for me. I get them having BARCHIE, but BARCHIE never seems to get going. Then it's Betty being horny and wanting everyone, including Reggie and Veronica. I know BARCHIE are endgame, but come on. There's only less than 10 episodes or so left.
Yeah. Also, pause. Is Reggie gone? What's the deal?
No, he was.
Oh, he was.
He
was he? Was he in the?
He was there.
costume
And by
scenes?
the way, like when Cammy posted the footage of the last episode, like Reggie was there. So
He
like
is
I'm
there.
sure he's gonna
Okay.
be there. Yeah.
Because they did mention, like, he does mention, like, oh, I want to finish the season, and I thought that, like,
And we
anyway.
talked about, we were like, that's not the end of the season though. That's just like
Right.
whatever.
Okay, so he'll be back.
Yeah.
Well, thank you everyone for your roundups. That was kind of a surprising like change. I didn't realize that there was so many people who didn't like it.
Yeah.
You know, I think like we've been saying, like we just have to bite down hard and just never let go until the final
you'll look
episode.
back and you'll miss this. Trust me.
Yeah.
Everyone listening right now, one day you'll look back and you'll miss this like community that we've all created, whether or not the show is good or bad or it's crazy or it's weird. So just enjoy the ride because it's almost done. So
and I think it's worth talking about, right? Like even if like you like NB just mentioned, like this community that we created is a community where we can kind of disagree with each other, debate with each other why you did or didn't like something. Like that is the point. This is the point. This is literally the point of this show, is like to have the dialogue, right? So anyways,
let's do the damn thing. Let's just finish off the season right.
Let's do the damn thing. Thank you. With that, I would like to thank our patrons of the episode. We have our Rewinder squad. We have White, Cliff, Hannah, Julia, and Haley. Our lit Rewinders, Tina, Ann, and Kate. And our mommy Rewinders, Becca, Sarah. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much to our Patreon family. If you would like to join our Patreon family, check us out at patreon.com/recap_rewind.
And also make sure you're checking us out on all of our socials: Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, Facebook, and TikTok. You can also find us on Google Podcasts, Spotify, iTunes, anywhere you listen to podcasts. Like, subscribe, follow, review, and comment to stay engaged with us at Recap Rewind. Thanks so much for listening.
Bye.
Bye.